get out of your butt. You'd be a little like,
Oh, that's a good
you'd sit a
point.
little crooked after that, but I think it'd probably be the best bet.
That would solve the wallet being in my back pocket problem, though.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Welcome to the What's Our Verdict podcast, where we fashion ourselves cinematic judge and jury. My name's JJ Crowder. I'm here with my co-hosts Javier Ortiz.
What is up, my nerds?
And Ian Anderson.
Some shit.
All right, in support of our fellow podcasters, do go check out Continue Watching. They're an anime, movie, TV show podcast where they discuss and review the latest things they've watched, from anywhere from Iron Man to what's called One Punch Man, Wild Wild West to Tiger King.
One Punch Man is great. Have you guys seen that?
I have seen it.
I haven't watched it yet. I
haven't seen season 2, but man, I've seen the first season. What a great show.
I haven't seen season 2 either, but I have seen for season 1 and I loved it. So, but yeah, go check those guys out. Called Continue Watching. They're available wherever you get podcasts, and they're also at anchor.fm/continue watching. So before we jump in with our review here, make sure that you do hit our subscribe button or follow. Tell a friend, helps us grow the podcast, and check out our website, whatsourverdict.com, where you can vote on our next review, sign up for exclusive content, which I'm very close to having ready. We did have a couple people sign up, by the way. So I was like, oh shit, I actually have to put that shit together because we have some people that are subscribed. So those of you that did subscribe, pay attention. It'll be coming soon. So this is our trial series, gentlemen. We're going to discuss the facts of a movie, pass judgment, and let our listeners know our verdict. Today, the movie we're putting on trial is The Gentleman. It was released in January of this year. It was directed by Guy Ritchie, written by Guy Ritchie, Ivan Atkinson, and Marn Davies. Stars Matthew McConaughey, Charlie Hunnam, Hugh Grant, Michelle Dockery, Jeremy Strong, Colin Farrell, Henry Golding, and Eddie Marsan. Normally I try to shorten that list up, but they all played such big parts. I was like, I can't shorten that. Those are all the major players in this movie. So, so let's go around spoiler free real quick. Ian, let's start with you this time. What'd you think?
I'll be honest. When it first started, I wasn't sure about it. It took me a while to get into this movie, and once I did, when I first saw it, I was like, I can't believe I'm watching this. And then once it was over, I was like, I kind of want to go back and watch it again. So it's if you have sensitive ears, man, you're not going to make it through this movie. That was one thing that got to me at first, and I had to adjust, was the language is just, whoa. It keeps coming, man. It's just the slew of language, and oh man. So be prepared for that if you don't know what you're getting yourself into. Man, the acting was great. It was fun. Like once you got into it, it was a fun movie. So I think that's where I'll leave it.
Cool. Javier.
I think overall this was a very fun movie. For our American listeners, watch it with subtitles, because I did not understand when I was watching without subtitles half the dialogue. I did not catch what they were saying. And
even if you do catch it, you probably won't understand it.
Yeah, and so that was my next point. Like, have, I don't know, a British slang dictionary. I mean, you're lucky enough where some of the things they'll put on the screen for you, like, oh, this means that. But yeah, there's a lot of slang in there that I clearly don't understand because I am not British. But very fun. And now I'm just really rethinking my subtitle thing, because there is a lot of language. So if you want to read the C word 100 times, then yeah, watch it with subtitles.
Oh yes. So for me, I love this movie, and to Ian's point, you got to watch it a second time. You really should if you haven't yet. I went and saw this in the theater with Casey when it first came out, like the day it came out. She loves Charlie Hunnam. She loves Hugh Grant. She loves Matthew McConaughey, which I love all those guys too. But I'm not a huge Guy Ritchie fan for the most part. Most of his stuff, I'm like, eh.
What did he make? Did he direct the Sherlock Holmes movies? Was that him?
Yes. So he did the Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock Holmes. He did there was a King Arthur movie that he did that starred Charlie Hunnam.
Oh, yes. That movie is so good, but it's so bad.
It's so bad, it's good.
Yeah.
But yeah, he did Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. And all of his movies, for the most part, are extremely overproduced. And I'm not a huge fan. He has great action scenes always. There's no question there. But it's either hit and miss with me with Guy Ritchie. So I wasn't super excited about this film. And then Casey drugged me to it. She did our AMC thing and was like, I scheduled a movie. I'm like, fuck, okay. I knew what it was. So we went. And I'm kind of like Ian. The first 10 minutes, I was like, this is clever. It's typical Guy Ritchie, like the whole intro scene where you get introduced to the story. It's very Guy Ritchie. And I was like, oh, it's going to be typical Guy Ritchie. About 45 minutes into this movie, I was laughing my ass off and having a ball. And I absolutely love this movie. For me, this is my kind of movie. I love the language. I did watch it this last time I watched it. Yes, last night this morning I watched it with subtitles, and I was just giggling my ass off even more because there's shit that happens in the background that you don't hear unless you're really listening loud and paying attention, but you can see it on the subtitles. So I was having a great time. Lots of language. It was my cup of tea. I'm like, yeah, lots of F words.
Your cup of
Your cup of tea.
Cup of tea, yeah, my cup of tea. So they I'm pretty sure I was reading, and I gotta verify this, but I'm pretty sure they set the record for fuck off and see you next Tuesday in a movie. So I have to double check those stats, but I was reading something along there where they said they think that it broke the record for both of those phrases in a single movie. So I love it.
it was used so much that like I was just used to
Yeah,
it.
you get numb
So if
to
I
it.
was walking down the street and someone was just like rattling it off, it'd be like, yeah, he's British or whatever.
Yeah. Well, and you guys know me, like I swear like a sailor, as you guys know, I love it. It's my favorite thing. But that word bothers me. Like it does. Like it makes me cringe when someone says it in real life. But on a movie, I was watching it knowing in Britain in the UK, that's like not as heavy a word for them. Still a big thing, but they use it more frequently. And so it didn't bother me watching it in the context of this movie. But they say it a lot. And it was weird because the two Americans in this, when they said it, it bothered me more than when the Brits, because yeah, I don't know. Anyway, so I really enjoyed this movie. I say go check it out. So let's spoil this thing. If you haven't seen it, go watch this movie. It's a very fun movie. Come back, pick up where you left off because we're about to spoil the shit out of this thing. So let's do it. I'll get started with this right out the gate. Like I said, the front of this movie, I was like, oh shit. I love Hugh Grant, and I love Hugh Grant in this movie. I know in our getting ready for this, Ian was like, Coach was my favorite part in this. And I think he's up there. Coach is my second favorite. Hugh Grant's character is my favorite character in this movie. He's just dirty and disgusting, and he's like creepy and weird.
So creepy.
He's so creepy and he's so weird. But like the way that he starts the movie, like, and he's just wanting to, like, he shakes the little glass and he's like, that's the first thing you see, and he just starts telling this like a movie. And then I love the way that it rotated through the different aspect ratios where I'm talking about 35 millimeter grainy, and it cuts to that grainy shit. And he's like, and I'm not talking about TV and it goes small aspect ratio. And then I'm talking about film ratio where it goes the 2.35 to 1. I was like, this is, or 1.23 or whatever the hell it is. I was like, I like this, but it did feel very Guy Ritchie. So I felt like I was getting set up for a typical Guy Ritchie movie, but it starts out quick and it never stops. The dude, you think he gets shot at the very beginning, and I just enjoyed the movie.
Dude, I always get lost when the movie starts with monologuing, right? When they're like, this guy, he did this and this and this, and there's like a machete and blood and this and and I start watching this, and maybe I agree with Ian, where first 10 minutes I'm like, I don't really understand what's going on, like story wise, and maybe that's because I can't understand what these people are saying, but like that first 10 minutes where he's talking about like, he's like, I got a movie script for you. I was like, oh, okay. Is this pitching for a movie? And then he started talking about a drug lord, like, and I was like, okay, wait, is this a movie about a drug lord, or is this a movie about a dude making a movie about a drug lord? And it took me a second, but I finally got on board, and I understand what I watched, I think.
Yeah, no, I fully agree with Javier. I didn't even mean to fully agree with you, but I am meaning to fully agree with you. Um,
Yes.
but I didn't know I didn't know anything about this movie going into it, which I'm glad I didn't because it made it a nice even perspective when I started watching it. But when I started watching it, I had no idea what was going on because I couldn't understand, and what they were talking about just didn't it wasn't clicking for me for like the first 10 to 15 minutes. And I think I got so hung up on the slang, like trying to figure out what it was that the story would leave me behind. So I do think I need to go watch this again because I'll pick up on a lot of stuff I didn't catch the first time. But I think you start to get an ear for everybody's accent and then it makes it a little bit easier. But I didn't recognize Hugh Grant at first. It took me like a good couple
I didn't
minutes.
either.
It's like,
I totally didn't either.
who is this
Yeah.
guy?
He did not look great in this movie.
Oh,
No.
he's getting up there in age, man.
Yeah. Well, and they made him look like shit. Like he looked
Yeah.
worn down and tired and like just as dingy as his character came across. But he had some great one-liners that I'm sure we'll get into. Like some of the dialogue in this movie, and I'll just jump right into that from here. The dialogue in this movie is fantastic.
It's amazing.
Yeah, even if you take the swearing out, like the bouncing off of each other the characters do on so many occasions, because each scene feels like it's just this conversation that's happening, and I fucking love it. Like every one of them left me entertained, laughing, wondering what the fuck they're talking about. Like it was just I was so engaged in every conversation that happened in this movie that just doesn't happen very often to me. Most dialogue I'm like, oh, it's just moving the movie along, they're using it as fodder. But this movie, it's so good. It's so
Dude,
good.
I can think of so many examples to back that up. Like when Colin Farrell takes what's his name, Charlie Hunnam, to the trunk, and he's like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, we found this Asian guy, fuck," and he's like,
Fuck.
"His name's Fuck." He's like, "No,
Yeah.
it's like a P and an H instead of an F," and it's like 30 solid seconds of them trying to pronounce this name that just sounds like the F word while this guy is having an asthma attack
Yeah.
in the trunk.
It's so good. Yeah, he pops it up and he goes, his name's Fuck, but it's with a PH, so it's fuck. And then Charlie Hunnam's like, fuck. Yeah,
He's like, yeah,
fuck.
that was the one.
Yeah, at the end he goes, look here, you fuck. And he's like, yeah, that's the one.
My favorite part is when he like uses his name and he's like, "Calm the fuck down."
Yeah, calm the fuck down, fuck. In fact, I think I put that one in my notes. It was so good. Yeah, I loved
Yeah,
it.
that one made me laugh.
I think arguably my favorite scene is when they are watching the video that he recorded from across the stadium that they were speaking in Cantonese. So he had it lip read in Cantonese and then translated to English. And so there are like all these things lost in translation, and the whole time Hugh Grant is like defending it. He's like, "No, it's like translation is good or whatever." And then it gets to the point where it's like, "Don't touch my mouse hair," and he's like, "What the fuck does that mean?" he's like, "Yeah, I'll admit that one got a little dodgy."
Well, I love it when he finally gives up. Like when the dude gets pissed and he's just like, okay, from here on out, it just goes to shit. And then he goes, what I think he's trying to say is, it's just, it's so good. Well, and that scene has a little Easter egg too. So, where they're doing the little back and forth and it shows the actual image of the script that he has written out. So that's an actual image of the movie script. And you can, if you pause it, you can read where he says, where Ray starts reading and then it shows the script. Right below it is Hugh Grant's next line. And you can see on the left side where it says his name. And then it'll say, because he says, oh, come on, what's that? Put some life into it. And he gives him like acting coaching. He's like, come on, at least act like you want to be. That line is in the line below Charlie Hunnam. So yeah, they actually took an image of the actual script of the movie and put it in there as the reading the line. I was laughing. I was like, that's clever. I didn't catch it till the second time watching it. But
speaking of Easter eggs, at the end when Hugh Grant's character is pitching his screenplay,
yeah,
and it pans the office, and there's a poster for the movie uncle, which Guy Ritchie directs that movie, right?
Yep.
Okay, I was wondering.
Yeah, I was like, what a turd. That is almost as bad as making an Independence Day reference in the White House.
Right.
Yeah.
The only thing that was better is the fact that he was doing that at Miramax, and this is a Miramax film.
I
I was
didn't know
like
that.
sitting going, this is so fucking meta. It's gross. It was everything about this movie just makes me giggle. There's so many funny things in this movie. Like, yeah, and Hugh Grant just kills me. Like some of his dialogue, like when he's introducing, he's like, they're going at it like a pair of old doggies sniffing around each other's intellectual assholes. I'm like, are you shitting me? What a great line. The other one that got me was where he's like, it was just about uncomfortable enough to make everyone feel comfortable. Like his 20 million number. I was like, it's so good.
The benefit to it being kind of hard to understand in the beginning and the slang being hard is it totally distracted me from trying to figure out the plot, like trying to figure out the twist. So when the twist came, I was like, oh, damn, what? Of course it's the American. That bastard.
Yeah.
Like, it totally caught me off guard. It was a very cool twist.
Absolutely.
I was just gonna say I like that twist, but as I got to thinking of it, wouldn't that him be the one that you started with? Like if you were to show somebody the secret plantation that nobody really knows the entrance to,
That's
and
what I
then
thought.
all of a sudden, like it gets hit, would your first thought be like that dumb? Yeah, I know exactly who that was.
Because when they reveal that, what's that guy's name? Matthew?
Matthew, yeah.
So
Matthew? Yeah.
Matthew.
When they reveal that it's like, oh, it's Matthew who told them where to find the stash, I was like, oh, of course he did, because he's the only one who knew where it was. I was like, that's really obvious. Yeah, that's a really good point, Ian. Man, Matthew McConaughey is kind of an idiot. I mean, his character, Michael.
True.
to be fair, like you said, I was so distracted by it and like in loving the movie that I didn't think about that till after it ended. And I was like, wait a second. But so it's a really entertaining movie, and all the characters are just spot on. Like I really enjoyed Ray, Charlie Hunnam's character too,
Mhm.
especially when he goes into the when he like goes to pick up that lord and lady's daughter.
Oh, yeah.
And that whole
great
scene was just like super entertaining to me. I like how they just control the whole situation, and it's the super calm, not what you'd really like. You'd expect them to go in and just start knocking heads, and it's not. It's like them sitting down and talking through and just insulting these kids. I don't know, especially at the end, he chases the guy with the phone, and he's like, "I'm here to buy it,"
Yeah.
and they're like, "You're gonna drop the money and leave," and da 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 da. And he pulls out the gun, and I love when he goes.
Yeah, when he waves his little hand. It's so good. I love the part where, like, some of the clips, like the quips where he's just like, you just walked into like 7 guys, right? And they're like, look, what are you gonna do now? I got backup. He's like, you couldn't back up a fucking phone. I was like, as he's bent over trying to catch his breath, I'm just like, that's so good. You couldn't back up a phone. Oh god, it was great. And some of it I like too is just like these little bit parts would come out of nowhere too and catch you off guard. Like the 4 guys that break into the weed farm and they're making like the fight porn out of it.
Which was awesome, dude.
Yeah, I was like, this shit's fantastic. And I love the way that they just clip shit together. So they show you the cool shit in the best possible way. Because like a lot of movies that aren't as creative, like you go in and you'd see the fight as it's happening, right? But no, as the fight gets ready to start, they're pulling. I love the 7 guys come walking out of the back of this freaking weed farm one at a time. They're like calling each other, and then right as you think the fight's going to start, it does a hard cut to Matthew McConaughey's character, and you're like, and watching. Getting the, he comes in, Ray comes in and says, oh, you need to see this. Sergeant Troopers, you need to see this. And then you see it in the fight porn format, which is the coolest way to watch the fight. I'm like,
it was awesome. In the middle of like a rap music video.
So clever. Just the way that they cut these scenes.
Right, they're like rapping in front of cars. And
yeah. And they're rapping about themselves. Like each one, it's just like got a clip about themselves and what they're doing. Oh, God, it was great. You know, another part that I really enjoyed in this movie is like when Hugh Grant's character would be telling the story and he'd go off script, like off of what really happened. So like Matthew
Oh,
McConaughey
yeah.
when Dry Eye came in to meet with him
Oh,
and he loses his shit, right? Like shoots him in the dick, shoots
amazing.
his friend in the head, and then he's walking behind him going, "Oh, your eyes aren't so dry now, are they?" He's just like losing his shit on him and then
Dude.
finally kills him. It
That was one of the
great.
best lines in the movie, I think, where he's like, "You're lecturing me about the rules of the jungle. There's only one rule, motherfucker. When the lion's hungry, he eats."
Yeah, they just
And
pop.
boom. And then it like rewinds. He's like,
Yeah.
wait a second. Like, he's
like,
not like that.
yeah, that was my face. He's like, come on, Fletcher. He's like, Michael doesn't work that way. And then it rewinds. I was like, oh, that's great.
That is also a really good line where he's like, you people like parables, right?
Yeah. That's true. I forgot about that.
And then he's like, once there was a young stupid dragon who came to a wise lion bartering for his land. Then he goes through this whole parable and he's like, and then the lion got annoyed. It took the young dragon out and put 5 bullets into his head.
Yeah.
He's like, and then they say that there's some meaning in parables. I don't know, though. Maybe you should just try to work it out for yourself.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it's so smooth. That's so cool.
Scene. Yeah. You know what other character is so good is the wife.
Oh,
His wife is a badass.
She's so cool.
And she like calls him to the carpet on like a constant basis. Like the part where they show it where he goes to get the girl, when Ray goes to get the girl and the kid falls out of the fucking off the balcony. And he's standing there and these are the two, you know, it's the boss and the boss's right-hand man having a conversation, and she just keeps interjecting into the conversation. He's like, yeah, this one guy had an accident. And he's like, what kind of accident? Well, he fell off a balcony. She's like, that sounds like a pretty serious accident. Yeah, it was kind of actually a death, really. She was like, well, that's not good, or that sounds bad. Yeah, it's actually really bad.
Yeah, it's just really bad.
It was so great. Or when she's laying there and Dry Eyes getting ready to rape her, and she's already just plugged these two guys with the most badass little gun on the planet.
Amazing shot, by the way. Both between the eyes.
Yeah.
Square in the forehead. I was like, oh shit. And then as she's getting ready, she just looks at Matthew McConaughey's character as he comes in. Hey, babe.
Like, and then boom, just blood all over her face. I was like, oh,
so such a cool character.
I'm sorry. Can we lead that into when Matthew McConaughey confronts Matthew, the American, in front of that freezer?
Yeah.
And he's like, you're going to pay me $270 million, according to your own calculations. That's how much this mess is worth. He's like, but one thing that money cannot resolve is that someone laid hands on my wife. And I'm like, oh, dude, it's over for you. And he pulls out a freaking carving knife and he's like, for that, I want a pound of flesh. And I was like, what does he mean by that? And then like literally a second later, I was like, oh, he means a literal pound of flesh. Oh my gosh, this is some hardcore Shakespearean shit that we're getting into now. Yeah. I'm all for this.
Yeah, it was epic. When he only screams the one time, like he says, someone laid hands, and that was someone laid hands on my wife, and then he's like, my wife. And then he calms the fuck back down again and pulls out the fillet knife and was like, you're gonna go in the freezer and you're gonna cut a pound of flesh. And I must warn you, if you take too long, it's 25 degrees in there. You have about an hour. And if you come back 1 ounce light, you're going back in. And he's like, and if you're worried about not being able to use your hands, because frostbite's a real thing and it does murder on the fingers and toes, he's like,
Benny will help.
Benny will. Yeah. He's like, he'll go in. He's very adept with a knife.
Occasion.
Yeah.
I'm all prepared.
And it's just so menacing how calm he is all the damn time. Like, it's the only time he really loses it for a moment is when he's going after Lord George. He just made this dude puke in his own restaurant from his own tea. And then he's got a gun to his head and he's like, what were you thinking? And he like yells at him twice. And then you can see him take a breath and he goes back to very scary Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah. He hands the gun back too.
Yeah,
He like It's a guy who's like, I don't even need a gun anymore. I'm like, oh, that is a power move.
Yeah.
Which honestly, that scene, I really respect King George from that because he wasn't like, it wasn't me. I don't know what's going on. It's a misunderstanding. He was just like, yep, I understand. And then he went to figure out what happened because you didn't know anything about an attack on McConaughey's operations or anything.
Yeah.
But like in that scene, you don't know that. You don't figure that out till later. But when you later find out that he didn't know anything, I was like, wow, what an interesting way to handle that situation. Because if it's me, I'm like, you come into my house, you feed me some diarrhea potion, and then you put a gun to my head. I didn't even do anything to you, man.
Oh yeah.
I was not expecting the projectile vomit.
Dude,
That
when
was
Ian says projectile,
yeah, like
that is an understatement.
that was
Yeah.
like fire hose,
Yeah.
like level
It's like Exorcist
twice.
shit. What that was. Yeah. Well, in the first one, I just love that Matthew McConaughey's like, fuck, and he like jumps up out of the way.
I was confused when it happened. I was like,
Me
"What?
too.
Why?" You should have explained. I guess you can't explain it before, but I was like, "Why is this guy suddenly just? Is this his superpower? Like, is this what happens when he gets nervous?"
He's like Reflux from Incredibles 2. He just like
Yeah.
vomits on things.
Well, it's
I
so
thought it was
funny.
like the Knives Out girl because she
Oh, yeah.
like would always puke when he lies. I was like, "Is this guy lying about his business?"
no
And that's
shit.
I didn't know what was going on.
I think that kind of led to the confusion of this movie for me is that they would show their cards before explaining it. Like another example is when they opened up that freezer and there was just some dead kid in there. I was
Yeah.
like, am I supposed to know who that is? Like, who's that dead person in a freezer?
Yeah.
And they don't explain that for another like 30, 45 minutes into the movie.
Yeah.
So they do that a lot. They'll do like some dude just starts vomiting violently, and you're like, what is happening right now? I'm so confused.
I do love it's funny that you said that because watching it the second time, he triggers because they're talking about the vices, right? He says, my only vice is the horse races. And then he starts talking, well, no, you deal in heroin, you deal in cocaine, prostitution, and he starts talking about those are all you deal in every vice. And he's like, and then he goes, no, and he goes, well, what about tea? And he literally triggers his ass to drink the tea, which I didn't catch the first time.
No.
But why would you bring up tea, right? And then it's like caffeine's a drug, and it's like he just drinks his tea. I'm like, oh, this fucker was genius. He knew he couldn't. He interrupted him before he drank his tea. Now he needed to get him to drink the tea, so you remind his ass that he has the tea.
That's pretty good. Because
Yeah.
if he'd just come in and be like, yo, I've got some tea for you.
Yeah, well, or if he just come in and start talking shit about, everything that's going on, the guy's going to forget about his tea. He's got a guy that he knows can be a killer in this room. Why am I going to worry about drinking my tea? But he triggers him and gets him to remember, I got tea. It's the kind of conversation I can drink tea in, and takes a sip of his tea. 10 minutes later, he's fucking hurling across the room.
Dude, not even 10, dude.
Yeah. When I start watching it, he's just like, I'm like, he's going to puke. Oh, it's great. Such great interactions with everybody. And then Colin Farrell's character is amazing in this as well.
I love Coach.
Good.
Yeah,
I love
Coach is
Coach.
great.
Well, especially when these are my lads. Like they're good guys. I'm trying to make them good guys. Like I'll bring all your stuff. I love when he comes back and like explains the situation, and he's like, I can make up for this and this and this. I can get your stuff back, but I can't make up for the inconvenience. I can't make up for X, Y, and Z. So what I offer is like my time and my skill set or whatever. I thought that was just such a baller move.
Yeah.
Like so cool.
Oh,
So
yeah.
cool.
It was so cool.
So
I
good.
like how they introduced him, like in that
Yeah,
deli.
he's slapping around kids
Yeah.
and then trying to teach them a lesson.
Yeah, he's like, the battle's in the mind.
Yeah.
When you're gonna stab, don't dance with it.
And what does he go through? He's like, kids kick, boys punch, or whatever, and men fight with their head or something.
Yeah, girls pull hair or use nails or something. Yeah, I didn't write that one down, but he goes through 3. I love 2 when he's like trying to get him to banter with him. Like he's talking,
he's like, fuck you. He's like, no. He's like, try again. Come on, but make it quick, make it clever.
Yeah, he's like, cut me, really cut me with it. And he comes after him with the knife, slaps him around a little bit more, and he's like, "Oh, you can come to the gym and we'll work and see what we can do with you." I was like, "Oh, you're the coach?" They're like, "Fuck." So good. Yeah, I loved it. Of course, I did love when he calls him too. He's like, "Coach." He's like, "Oh, fuck, he's the coach." And then he's like, "We just scored a whole thing of Bush." And he's like, "Oh, shit."
Like, walk away right now. It's like, too late. It's already in the gym. And he's like, what is wrong with you?
You took my van.
We're unloading the van. You took my van? Comes back. I can't leave you kids unsupervised.
That scene where they kidnapped the like owner of that news company. I was like, what is this? The Black Mirror pilot episode? Like, it's the same fucking premise. And what kind of drug do you have to feed someone that they'd be okay
fucking a pig?
Knocking up a pig, yeah. What did they give him?
I don't know. But whatever it was good. I just love that scene.
I thought it was a bluff. When I was watching it, I was like, it's a bluff. It's a bluff. Like, he's not going to hit play. And then he hit play, and I was like, oh, wow, they're going there.
It cuts to Colin Farrell and Chris, whatever his name is.
Yeah.
And Chris is like, wow, you can't unsee this. He's like, I was there, and I still can't get over it.
They're just like... But neither of them stops it. Like, they just keep...
You just look closer. They're like, "This is horrifying." And they're like, "Oh yeah, it's awful," but they keep playing it.
You can't unsee that, can you? When I love when they're outside the van and he's watching it with his boys, and you hear him start watching it, and all of a sudden you hear him start screaming in the van. It's like it's so funny.
And then he's like, "Oh, you know what part that is?"
Yeah. And then they just keep cutting to the seat, like the back of this damn pig, the actual pig. They just keep cutting to quick shots of the ass of this pig. And I love the little image in the video, the fact that the pig's ass with the play button right there.
Oh my gosh,
it's so bad.
Oh my gosh, who was the one who edited that? Right, because it had to have some editing,
right?
So who's in charge of that?
Did the fight porn, probably.
Yeah, exactly. Same two guys.
Oh, that's right, because
they're all about the videos.
Yep. Oh, so bad. Yeah.
Well, at least he can't remember it, right? Like,
true. I mean, he knows he did it. Well, I just love you. We folded your clothes for you. It's like, here's some stuff you can watch. Yeah. Nice. And they're all kind. You're like, we did all the damage we could possibly do to you. You're good.
Drink something hot because it might make you feel a little better.
Yeah.
I guess.
Well, and then Coach, like, I love the very end too when Coach shoots the two guys that are coming, the Russians that are coming to kill. Yeah, that's all. He doesn't say anything. He just puts his four fingers on 4 because he's like talking about earlier how you only get 3 strikes, I'm out. He's like 4.
He's like
4.
I love it.
What did he say? He says something like, I'm not a gangster, but I've been forced to do some gangster things.
Yeah,
which is fine.
Which is fine.
Yeah.
I'm not the gift that keeps on giving.
It's such a fun movie. Yeah, it's seriously, like, the story is a cool story. It's a normal story. It's a fun story. Redemption, weird mystery story. But the dialogue and the way that it all plays out is just so damn good. And just it's entertaining. It keeps you engaged in the story. You want to know more. You want to know what's going to happen with these characters. The way that they play it, it was very surprising to me how good the dialogue was. Like, it was just so fun.
It was also surprising to me how well they were able to incorporate all the characters. Because I think that gets lost in a lot of movies where they introduce too many characters and too many storylines and too many motivations. And there's not enough time in 2 hours to cover why everyone's doing what they're doing and how that all intertwines. But for some reason, and honestly, I can't put my finger on it, it works in this movie that you have like 3 different gangs working against each other. You've got like, a news company that's somehow involved. You've got gangsters' wives involved. Like, you've got tons of characters, but I never looked at this and was like, there's just too many people.
Yeah.
Like I thought everyone played an important role, and it was awesome.
Yeah. I agree. And I love like just the little subtle, and they never overdid anything either. Like there was never any over explanation. There was never any too much of one scene or one particular piece. Like even the parts that I thought could have been boring, like where you start talking about how he works his whole operation, and they showed that it's underground, and what he's done is he's pays basically massive amounts of rent to these lords who need money to keep their castles and their manors up to snuff when they're not working. They don't make money. They just have all of this nice shit and are rich by blood. Now they need this money. And so now he's using their land. He's underground. He saves them. He puts a roof on the one guys. They didn't overdo it. Like you could have sat and had so much talk amongst that. It was just, no, this sucks. I have to shut you down. That's terrible. I needed a new roof here just to keep you on my fucking payroll and in my good graces. I'll fix your roof. I'll go get your dumbass daughter from, the heroin addict singer person that at the end is what creates the whole problem, right? Is going and getting the daughter, kills the Russian. That's who's coming after him at the end that they didn't know about. So it just was such a good, everything had its purpose. There was nothing that was overdone or underexplained. And I think that adds to what you're talking about, Javier, is the fact that the characters were there for what they needed to be and played their part. And I didn't need anything more from them because I knew exactly why they were there, which is, it's not done very often, very well. Like you say, you get a lot of characters. You're like, oh, I wanted more of this character, or why were they even here? Or God, I didn't need them at all. And you walk away not feeling that way with this movie. At least I did.
Yeah. I also think this is a good movie about the proper use of narration, because we talked like a couple weeks ago about Artemis Fowl, how Josh Gad just narrates everything for some reason. Like we didn't need that much narration, but this movie incorporated narration super well. Where explained enough where I was like, okay, I'm glad someone's here explaining what I'm looking at, but you don't have to hold my hand through everything because I am still looking at it, right?
So
I thought that was cool.
I liked it. So there's some more one-liners. I got a whole list of them because I watched it again. Just going.
All right, let's hear them. Let's hear JJ's top one-liners.
Ooh, so one of them came from the wife. This is one of my favorites. So because he's talking about they just got one of the things rated, and he said, in the midst of a sale, that doesn't seem like coincidence, does it? And his wife goes, it isn't. There's fuckery afoot.
I love that line.
I forgot about that one.
I want to use that at some point.
I will use that at some point.
Brilliant.
Yeah. It isn't. There's fuckery afoot. Yeah, it was great. So this one's terrible, but it fucking made me laugh. So Hugh Grant, where he's talking about when he first introduces Dry Eye, and he's like, Chinese, is he Japanese, Pekingese, get on your fucking knees. I was like, what? So bad. That's why he's so creepy.
There were so many like racially questionable lines in this whole movie.
God. Well, and we have to talk about the one where they actually address racism at its core.
It's a wonderful lesson in racism. I back it 100%.
It was great. So the guy, when they're in the gym and the white guy leans over the ropes of the boxing ring and he looks at the guy and he says,
black guy.
Why aren't you training? He's a black guy. I should clear that. He goes, why aren't you training, you black cunt? And I'm like, oh shit. And then
the movie kind of pauses for a second. Like no one says anything for a second.
Lets you feel awkward.
Yeah, lets you feel that emotion for a second or two.
And then you see the black character's face go, what the? And he looks at Colin Farrell's character, the coach. He goes, did he just call me a black cunt? He goes, he did. And he goes, he can't do that. That's racist. He goes, no. He goes, you are black and you're a cunt. Those are just the facts. he goes, but I'm not a cunt. Just because I'm a cunt isn't because I'm black. He's like, he didn't say all black people were cunts. He was being specific to you. One has nothing to do with the other. He goes, and I like to look at it as a certain type of term of affection. And then he says, yeah, but so-and-so's a gypsy. And if I called him a pikey cunt, he goes, well, he'd probably appreciate that, especially if it came from a place of love. I was like, what did I just listen to?
I also just love
go.
just knowing that Colin Farrell is just there to make sure these guys don't go to prison. So he is just trying to make sure these guys could just survive.
Yeah, he's just there to
And
teach them life lessons.
so he's probably in his head like, why would you call someone that? And he's desperately trying to explain it.
Well, and I love the fact that he just stayed so calm, and everything that he said after it was said was just matter of fact. Like it was just like,
Yeah.
whatever.
I love that. He's like, but I'm not a cunt because I'm black. He's like, no, he's not saying that all black people are.
Yeah.
He's just saying you are.
Oh, so good. Another one. So Ian brought this up where one of his favorite scenes where he walks in and he's getting Laura and he's talking to these, they're all heroin addicts, right? They're all pretty high. And he walks in and he's all, what happened to a smoke and a poke and a glass of wine? Candles around the bath with a finger in the missus. And I was like,
Yeah, I did not get that at all.
well, a smoke of weed, a poke, as in sex, a glass of wine while you're in the bath with candles around it, and then you're fingering your lady.
Okay, see, you're either literal or you're not. Like we can't jump back and forth between analogies. That's why I was thrown off. I was like, what does a glass of wine mean?
Yeah.
But if it's just a literal glass of wine, see, that's why I was lost, man.
Oh, I loved it. Well, and then I love the fact that the idiot, the stupid kid was like, wait, so is Barry White? Am I in a bath with Barry White? And he's got his finger in my missus? And I was like, what? He's like, stay out of it, man. You were lost long before Barry White came around.
Oh, what was the line right after that? He's like, what do I have to be guilty of?
Yeah.
He's like, because you're a cunt.
Yeah. Oh.
I'm like,
Felt like that was a reason for a lot of things in this
yeah,
movie.
I'm like, I clearly don't know what this word means anymore.
Oh man, it was great. Yeah, and then I did write down one we were talking about where he's like, all right, fuck, calm the fuck down.
Yep.
Oh, it's so
like
good.
Yeah.
I like when Dry Eye calls out the grammar randomly.
Yeah.
He's
Oh.
in with
Yeah.
his wife, and he's like, "Whoa, now I think I'm gonna have to check your grammar on that one. How can you be a little absolute?"
Yeah.
Dude, that character was by far the most annoying character.
Yeah, he was
Which
stupid.
And which is funny because he's not that annoying of a character, but everyone else is just so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's trying so hard to be cool that it's just lame, man.
Yeah. I do love how they introduced him though, because that was another case where Hugh Grant's character or Fletcher was like exaggerating because you see him and he's like, yeah, dry eye. And then it's got like, he's got two guns and he's losing his shit, just popping them off in slow mo. I was like, what the hell is going on? And it just cuts and he's just talking to people about the fucking crates. It's so good. There was so talking about fuck, the character fuck, when it cuts immediately after he gets hit by the train, he jumps off the bridge and gets hit by the train. Cuts right back to Matthew McConaughey character, and he goes, okay, so who was this jumping fuckboy anyway?
Just after that, he talks about to Ray, he's like, "This is becoming a consistent problem. Like, you're gonna have to invest in some parachutes."
Yeah, invest in parachutes. That was a good one. What the fuck,
Could
Ray?
you imagine being Ray? Like, okay, so someone else died because like, how do you explain that again? There was an accident. Someone was hit by a train. There was more of a death, really.
Yeah, it was more of a death. Really. I did enjoy Ray too when he was telling him he's got to go get Laura, and he's like so against it. He's like, "Can't you send here? I just hate heroin addicts." He's like, "I'm not asking your OCD to spend the weekend with them. I just want you to go get the girl. Come on, you're driving." It just walks away.
He's also like, "I really don't want to do this." He's like, "And yet you're going to."
Yeah.
He's like, well, okay.
No good deed goes unpunished. So good.
And boy, was he right.
Yeah. I remembered one more when they're out on the outside and he's like, "Is this a barbecue too?" And he's like, "Yeah." He's all, "It warms your knees and cooks your meat." and then he's all, "Can we have a steak?" And he's like, "I think I got some Wagyu." And he goes, "Oh, I've never had Wagyu." And then he's walking away and he touches it. "Oh, fuck me, it's hot." was like, this guy's such a moron. How is he? And I think that was the part that I found really interesting is almost this whole movie you spend thinking this fucking idiot, weirdo, creepy bastard got one up on this crew of what seemed to be, albeit for a few mistakes, a very efficient, dangerous crew of marijuana dealers. And then you find out that he didn't. They were just using him to get the one piece they couldn't figure out.
Yeah.
I loved it because it blew my mind. I was like, how did he fucking outdo these guys? But then you realize, oh, he didn't.
Yeah, and then they just go gather everybody up and turn his plan to mush.
Yeah.
I love that.
It's fucking
I love
great.
that.
He's in the box, trying to get out of the box. You need to know this one thing, Ray.
I do like the part where McConaughey explains why he deals weed and not in like cocaine or anything.
Yeah.
Where he's like, my vice doesn't kill anyone. Right. And he's like, and I like that.
Yeah. Well, then he goes on to say, what you deal is literally is the destroyer of worlds. And it's
destroyer of worlds.
And I love that it shows, it was a great visual to show the girl that they saved earlier, Laura, dying of a heroin overdose as he's saying, your drug of choice kills people and is the destroyer of worlds. And you can see, one, the payback for letting Dry Eye destroy, raid his things. So he's burning his cook area. And then you see the effects of this nasty drug. And then him saying, I prefer weed because it doesn't kill anyone. I did like that scene too.
It's either like right before or right after he says the term destroyer of worlds is when that girl's dad finds her in the lawn. And it's such an awesome, like attachment where it's like his world is destroyed.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And you're like, wow, what an interesting editing, line delivery. Like, yeah, that was a crazy good scene.
It's crazy, huh? Because it literally is just because he has no other heirs. He has no other children. So it destroyed his world. It's such a good, I love that part too. This movie's so fun.
Also talking about that grill. So the part when McConaughey's like, I want a pound of flesh. And then it cuts to them slapping a piece of meat on the grill. I was like,
well, for a second, it's funny that you say that because the first time I saw it for a second, when he slaps that meat down, I was like, ooh, tell me that's not that pound of flesh and he's about to feed it to Fletcher because I could see his weird ass doing that.
That part legit stressed me out because he's going to be like, you're eating someone's thigh. Yeah. And I would have just lost it. I was like, oh, gross.
I seriously thought that and then he ends up in the box. I'm like, oh, thank God it was just Wagyu again. But I seriously, I was like, oh no, that's Matthew's pound of flesh.
Dude, how much is a pound of flesh?
More than you want to think about, man.
Like, wouldn't you die?
No.
Like, you don't think so?
No, because now think about it. If you look at...
It has to come out of your leg, right? Has to come out of your leg.
Or your belly or your back. Either one, you could get... There's enough meat and muscle and tissue there that you could survive that as long as you don't hit an artery. The real problem with your leg is if you hit your femoral, you're toast, right?
Well, you do your outside,
sure.
Right? Like your thigh or whatever.
But think about when you go to the grocery store, like a pound of hamburger, like you're in the cellophane, and it piles up about 3 inches tall at the peak, probably an inch tall at the outsides of it, and it's probably about 8 inches long, 6 to 8 inches long, another 4 inches wide. So I mean, it's a good chunk of fucking meat. The other thing you got to remember though is that's ground beef, so it's going to be lighter than what you're going to take just off of flanky because you're going to have skin. They've taken the skin off. Skin is actually quite heavy because it's much thicker than we think. So it depends on what he means by a pound of flesh. If he wants a pound of fucking meat, that's going to suck ass because if you got to get through the skin. But if he was okay with it being skinned, like you take a pound, the skin is very heavy. I've slaughtered pigs before and it's very fucking heavy coming off the skin. It's unpleasant. Don't ever be part of slaughtering
because it's filled with blood too.
Yeah.
Right? So it's not just pure meat. You've got like blood in there.
Yeah.
Just the thought of having to carve
I'm out.
Pound of meat out of your own body sucks.
I'd be like, I need Benny's help and I need you to like knock me out first. So of course that defeats the purpose, but I don't think I could cut a pound of my own flesh off.
I'm like, how about I give you 500 million?
Yeah. Either that or I'm just gonna sit in the damn
Jeez.
cooler and die. You know what I mean?
Right. You might as well at that point.
Yeah. I don't know if I could, to be honest, guys.
I couldn't do
Yeah,
that.
I don't know if I could cut a pound of flesh because, like, I've
He
given
was a
myself
small
a
guy
paper
too.
cut. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
That's one
he's not a big guy.
Me, pound of flesh, that's easy shit. I got lots of places to get that from, and it's mostly fat. But that guy's skinny. that's gonna hurt.
Ah. Do you take it all from one place, or do you divvy it out so that, hopefully you can still use your leg and like your back and stuff?
That's a great question. I don't know. I don't even want to think about
Oh,
that.
see, these are things.
Take it out of your butt. You'd be a little like
Oh,
Ooh.
that's a good
you'd sit a
point.
little crooked after that, but I think it'd probably be the best bet.
That would solve the wallet being in my back pocket problem, though.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
You got the dent
just
in your
carve a
ass.
little hole.
Silver lining.
Dent in my ass fits perfect for my wallet.
That's where you can put those 270 million
Yeah, fuck.
right there.
All right, so we ready to rate this thing? All right, I'll start. I love this movie. I thought this movie was fantastic. The dialogue was amazing. The visuals are great. The way that it jumped you around from, I don't usually like hard cuts to hard cuts. It feels a little like gives you whiplash, but this one, it worked because of the way they told the story. The story was back and forth. It was, this piece led to this piece, led to this piece, and here's how we got to the end. The dialogue was fantastic. Everything from the comedic parts to the serious parts, it all was very concise. It was to the point. It led you where you needed to go. The acting was amazing. We didn't even touch on that other than the fact that it was such a good movie. There was not a part in this movie that was not acted well. Not a single one. Even the bit players, the fucking thugs that they took with them, everybody did a great job. The guy standing outside the Mercedes getting harassed by the kids, shows them the gun, tries to hand them some money, tells them to fuck off. Like, I was just like, it was so good across the board. The idiot kids, the drug kids, great acting. I just really enjoyed this movie. I still, to this day, I've seen it 3 times now. I'll probably watch it again before my rental runs out because it's just that good. And I'll probably end up buying it because I actually forgot how good this movie was until I watched it again last night. I was like, this was that good. So if you can't tell already, I'm going to give this movie a 5. Probably the best movie we've watched, in my opinion.
Wow.
And that's rough because I've had like 3 5s now. But this one, to me, is the best one.
Yeah, dude. You're getting those out like candy, man.
Just handing out 5s.
I know, I'm amazed. Like, I usually wouldn't be the guy to do that, but we've had 3 movies that I thought were just amazing. Because for me, the 5s were Knives Out, this one, and Jojo Rabbit.
Oh, Jojo.
Oh,
Gotcha.
Jojo Rabbit. What a great movie.
Yeah, I know. So, see, to me, I read those back and I go, okay, they make sense. Those are 5. I love those movies. So, yeah, I give it a 5. I will definitely watch this again. Great movie. Ian, why don't you take us next?
You bet. So I loved the characters in this movie. Each one of them just felt so unique. Like there's a bunch of tropes out there that you could always follow, and I didn't feel like any of them really like fit niche into those. So it was fun seeing some unique characters. Like JJ mentioned, the acting was great. Each one of the characters did well. I think the only character I didn't like was maybe Matson, but maybe that's or Matthew, the bad guy.
Is that a Freudian slip right there? I know, right?
Awkward.
Dude's not even here to defend himself. No.
That's just it's what I'm used to saying is Matson. No.
Is that you don't like Matson?
No, I'm saying I usually say the name Matson, not Matthew.
It's like in the mirror, like, fucking hate Matson.
He just wouldn't say fuck it. That's all.
He does by himself when he's looking in the mirror, talking about Matson.
Little do those guys know, I swear all the time, fuckers.
Yeah, you guys, you'd be surprised. I just don't like it being recorded. So, anyways, what was I saying, Matthew?
You didn't like Matthew?
You're talking.
Gosh, dang it.
Oh, shit. Ooh, that was fun.
Okay. So Matthew was the only character I didn't like, but maybe that was on purpose because he's kind of this, conniving villain. Yeah. The gentleman. I will say for me, the language was enough that it was distracting. Like especially at the start, like I think Javier said this, but like you had to get used to hearing certain words over and over, and it kind of like numbs you down to it eventually. But man, like hearing the C word that many times, like was a bit much for me. What else? Yeah, it was a fun movie. It was fun. It was entertaining. I don't know if I'm quite as high as JJ. I'll watch it again, but I think I'll probably go with a 4 on this one.
Cool. Javier.
Nice. I agree with all of that. What a fun movie. You know, the language wasn't as annoying or bad or off-putting as I thought it would be from the beginning of the movie to the end. And maybe I did just get numb to it or whatever. With that said, you know, just be prepared to hear the C word a lot.
Yeah.
Even in this podcast, it was a little weird saying it, but like it's direct quotes,
Yeah, it
man.
came right out of the
I
movie.
can't. Anyway, I'm going to give this a 4, I think. And the only reason I don't give it higher is I'm actually glad I didn't watch it in theaters because I don't think I'd be able to understand what was going on without subtitles. So it's like one of the only movies where I've looked at this and been like, I really like this, but I'm glad I didn't see it in theaters. And that alone, along with like how confusing I think the beginning was, marks it down a little bit for me. But man, do they make up for that. Like it is seriously, the characters are fun. The twist is fun. The dialogue is great. The cinematography is awesome. Even we didn't talk about this at all, but the soundtrack is amazing.
That's fair.
It has a great soundtrack, which I will probably listen to some of those songs because I'm a big like rap, like R&B type hip hop fan. So anyway, I'm gonna give it a 4. I'm probably gonna watch this again, which I don't think I've said that really about any movie that I haven't already seen multiple times in this podcast. So I will definitely watch this one again because I think Ian mentioned this, that there are a lot of things that I missed that I think I'm going to be able to pick up on the second time around.
Yeah, it is. I'll confirm that. It is one of those movies that, because as we've determined, movies that I like, I watch multiple times. It's one of those movies that even the third time I watched this, I picked up on new things that I was like, oh shit, that adds to the story. That's fun. That's different. Like I didn't catch the visualization of the Destroyer of Worlds and everything that was going on. All the 3 different scenes that were being shown in that moment. I saw them, but I didn't realize their significance until I was be able to take a step back from trying to figure out what was going on. So very good point. You'll enjoy it. Second time's really, really good as well. So there you guys have it. That's the rating that we'll give it. So go check it out and enjoy the movie. And then Javier, why don't you tell them where they can find us?
Oh, let me tell you where you can find us. Okay, so you can find us pretty much wherever you find just cream of the crop, amazing godsend podcast. I'm talking about the kind of podcast that like you listen to as you sleep, like just your worries away, as you just slip into sleep. I don't know, I lost that one. Anyway, so you can find us at Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher. Those are just some examples, but we are everywhere. And when I say everywhere, I'm fucking everywhere. And
we're at iHeartRadio too.
We're at iHeartRadio.
That's new. That one took some work.
You can also find us on social media. We are on Facebook and Instagram, which is our mains. We're also on Twitter. And we are on YouTube, though at no fault of anyone in particular. We haven't been exactly consistent with it. So we're gonna get better at that, but we've got some videos up there.
Yeah.
And if you want to reach out to us directly, you can DM us on any of those social media platforms, or you can email us at hosts@whatsourverdict.com. Is that about everything?
It's about everything. They can also send us a message through our website where they can go and again vote for our next movie.
Oh, guys, hop on our website, vote, check it out. JJ did a great job. It's beautiful. Also, we all have bios on there, and I'm pretty sure mine is the best. So.
I don't know. Ian's is pretty good.
Ian's pretty good too.
The other fun thing
is the best.
Yeah, your picture is the best by far. The other thing you can do on the website, guys, is you can go and we have an Amazon link where you can go. It costs no extra money for you, anything like that. But Amazon affiliate. So you go and you click on the Amazon link and shop, and we get a few pennies to help support the podcast. So for everything you purchase. So if you shop through Amazon, don't be afraid to go through our website. Thanks, Javier, for the rundown of where we're at. And thanks everybody for listening.
And JJ, before we go, I just want to clarify that if I were to call you a white broke bastard, you're not broke because you're white. and you're not a bastard because you're broke. I just want to make sure that that's clear.
Yeah, and you're not calling all white people broke.
Right.
One has nothing to do with the other. So you're not calling me a cunt then? Oh, I had to finish it. All right. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, we thank you for listening. That's the verdict, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Bye-bye now.
Cinemagic out.